Hey guys, welcome back to Audience of One. We're your hosts, Jamie
and Jamie.
We're so excited that you're back. We hope that you enjoyed our first 2 episodes. How do you feel about them?
I feel like they were good, but I feel like we were really nervous, and I feel we're still nervous. We're still trying to get the hang of it, and I think the more we do it, the more we'll get.
I think though, episode 2 compared to episode 1, oh my gosh, episode 1, you guys, I had so much anxiety that whole day because I just felt like it wasn't good, and I just felt like I didn't speak very well, and I just need to get better at this.
I know. I feel like I need to get used to just speaking without filler words. Literally right now, saying so many times. So I'm sorry if you don't like that. I'm working on it.
No, you're amazing. But I think we just need to give ourselves grace and let this come a little more naturally. But I think that the second episode was so good.
I know. I love that episode.
I love Haley.
I know. She did so good. And I feel like she helped us feel better and more confident because she holds herself so well and speaks so well that
it just flowed.
Yeah.
It was so like just chatting with a friend. We forgot that we were being recorded almost.
Yeah. So it's harder when there's 2 of us. And we're we're getting filmed right now. But it's a learning curve, and we're getting better each time. So.
And if you guys haven't noticed, we are holding new mics, and this
third
is
time's
our
the
third
charm.
set of mics.
Yeah, we've had a lot of troubles, which honestly have felt very calculated and weird to us, which we'll kind of get into, but I don't know why we keep having so many problems, because everyone else who starts a podcast seems to just have it first try. Yeah. And we just honestly haven't.
And we've been doing research, and we've been trying to buy the best equipment with the good reviews and stuff, but it just hasn't been working out in our favor. And
things that we'll order will just randomly disappear or not get shown up, or
literally she ordered something to connect the mixer into the computer, and it said delivered, and it was not on my front porch. So and that's just one of the 10 weird things.
Many things my computer wouldn't save the video, and then I had to re-edit it multiple times, and there have just been so many little things that have made it a lot harder for us. But we're still here. We're still filming this, and we still really, really want to get this out there and do something and with our platform and our community. So I feel just takes a few tries.
Hold of us yet. We're still doing it.
Yeah, we're still trying. We're still doing it. But we're happy you're here.
Fun. Yeah, and we love it. So me and you haven't sat down for a filmed podcast in 2 weeks. So how have your 2 weeks been?
They've been good, and there's been so much good in them, but I've been so stressed, honestly. I'm going to be so real. I have had just so much going on, and so many things planned all at once, and I feel like February is my busiest month. But we're almost to the end of the busy season, and we're getting through it, and I just keep reminding myself that God wouldn't give it to me if I wasn't able to handle it. So
something that I tried to rewire my brain is that there's a lot of fruit in showing up. So I think obviously you don't want to overcommit yourself all the time and feel the burnout of, being too social, but also there is a lot of fruit in showing up for things, especially things that you planned or committed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's just a season. And then our season of rest will come shortly, and we won't feel
true. I also feel though that sometimes I'm I am always saying I'm busy, but then I realize I'm signing myself up for that, and I'm choosing to add more things to my plate, and so at the end of the day it's I'm busy, but it's gonna get done. It always goes well, and it always gets done, and I always find joy in it at the end. So I feel even if I feel stressed, I just remind myself to take a breath and realize it's gonna get done. It doesn't have to be something I'm stressing about or wasting my energy on. So
and also it's kind of a blessing being so busy,
True.
We could be the opposite and have nothing going on
That's
ever.
very true. Which I've had before, and that I always find myself going down a mental slope. Like,
I know,
it's
like
just
finding a new hobby, like learning how to bake bread or something.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, what am I doing with my time right now?
Right?
Except I do really want to bake bread. That sounds really
Talk
nice.
to Chaz because he wants to as well.
Really?
Really? Baking buddy.
I really want to make sourdough. Like, I've been seeing that on my For You page.
Yeah, no, he would be all over that. I'm just like, who has the hours in the day to do all that?
I definitely don't right now, but if you do, please send me some bread. I want some homemade bread. But how has your 2 weeks been?
It's been okay. It was up and down, up and down. I too have been super busy. I think I've just been working on like trying to just take it all in and just live in the moment. And if I have a busy or bad Monday, that doesn't mean that like I have to have a bad week. I think I kind of just like let myself, if it's bad Monday, Tuesday, I'm like, oh, this whole week is just garbage. Like I'm just not even gonna try. And that's just so like, I could turn it around. I know it's so cliche, but like I don't need to make it a bad week.
Yeah, there's so much power in just your mindset and like how you choose to think about things. And so no, I relate to that a lot. I'm like, oh, okay, my day's ruined. Like my week's
I'll try
ruined
again next week.
Yeah, and then I'm like, no,
no, realistically, then we waste 5 perfectly good days.
Yeah,
and it's scary when you think about it. Of like all those days are numbered, and it's like I don't want to waste any of those. Like
no, I know today we were both feeling extremely like frazzled and stressed, and we made to-do lists, and we were just like, let's get out of this mindset because it doesn't have to feel like that all day. Right. Like we can just, you know, as long as we get things done and we can check it off, like we'll be good. Yeah. And I think that helped a lot. We prayed and remembered that Jesus would not give us this if we couldn't handle it. So
yeah, exactly. But also we go to Disneyland in a few days, and we're so excited. Have you started packing?
No, I have not. We leave on Saturday. Currently, we're filming. It's Thursday? Yeah, it's Thursday. And I have to wait because I feel like I want to wear clothes that I end up wanting to wear on the trip. So I end up having to do laundry like the day before, and then I pack like literally the night before we leave.
That is wild to me.
Really?
I'm like a 2-week in advance person.
I can,
and not just because I have kids either. Like obviously I have to pack for a whole family, so that would make sense to do. But no, even when I was like no kids, single, I was just so excited my suitcase would be packed for weeks. Like
I feel like
go.
Yeah, I feel like I was like that when I was younger, but now that I'm older, and honestly because I've also been busy, like I don't have time for that. I don't have time for it. Like I'll carve out time the night before and do it then.
Gosh.
I just can't.
But what if you forget stuff? Do you make a list or anything? Or
I make a list, but I'm also really good at like lists in my brain. Yeah. So like I might not. Good. Sometimes I write it down. Sometimes I don't. But I'll like make the list in my brain. Like I'll go through each day and think of what I'm gonna need that day. And I also like low key, as far as my toiletries and stuff. Like I live out of bags anyways. Like I have all my makeup in one bag, all my hair stuff, all my like, so it kind of makes it easier to like just get up and go or like pack it. So I feel like I don't have to worry about missing something. Yeah. But I do fear of that.
And you especially that divorced parents.
Yeah,
life,
with
so
having divorced parents, that trained me well. Let's just say.
I guess it paid off.
Yeah, literally.
But so real quick, when you get back from the trip, are you quick to unpack or no?
I wouldn't be unless I didn't need the stuff. Like,
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Need the stuff.
Yeah. So that bag's getting opened.
Yeah, so it just gets opened. I take all my toiletries out, and then I'm like, let me just throw all these clothes in my dirty clothes thing.
Yeah,
and then
I do that too. Yeah. It's too much work to like separate what's clean and what's dirty. Like
because I feel like since it's sitting in the same bag, like the smell, I don't know. Yeah. Like that sounds gross, but like
stinky girl.
No, like I just like my stinky socks. Like after 2 days walking
like
around
Disneyland or something.
That and like 2 days walking around Disneyland, like I probably am gonna have stinky socks. Like let's be real.
Can't relate.
Okay, right. But no, I feel like I just have to wash all of it, even if I didn't wear it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not like a waste or something, but...
No, I mean, I do it too. I think it's... And also, like, I think I forget what I wore and didn't wear. And especially, like, underwear. Like, how do you know which ones you wore and which ones you didn't wear? Like, that's just too much work.
I forget, because I just grab and go,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Welcome. So... I think, today we can really jump into spiritual warfare. and just talk about, our definition of what it is and how we personally have overcome it in our lives. And I think that coming off of like a hard few weeks, this is like the perfect topic for us.
I know it almost feels like that was also intentional as far as when we planned to film this, like it's almost like we planned it and then all of a sudden things started happening and we were like, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if maybe that's just because we started thinking about it more and learning more about it. So that allowed us to notice and recognize, is this spiritual warfare or is it not?
It's like
I know it's
right?
a hard one.
Spiritual warfare, like it's so hard to say.
But it is. I feel like it seems like a scary topic, so don't be scared if you're here. Like we're just gonna. It's important to learn about because I think that helps grow closer to Jesus because you're working towards knowing what's not him.
Yeah.
And I think that is important to just know about in general, like the closer you get to God. So yeah, I feel like personally, like my definition of what it is, it's just like anything that's not God and that's something that's evil spirits and something that is creating a ton of doubts or anything like that in your life. I feel like it could be anything from doubt to confusion to temptation to fear, anxiety, like any of those feelings that they almost feel, like I said, evil, like it feels not safe and scary and that stuff. But I don't know, I feel like it's hard to kind of determine until you get closer to God. I feel like I didn't really know what spiritual warfare was until I actually started learning about it or actually was noticing, oh, this feeling, this is not God. And
I feel like too, just to piggyback off of that, like it's just so easy to feel, spiritual warfare every single day in the little moments. It's just so easy to feel attacked. I took some notes. I would describe it as like a loss of passion for God. Exactly everything you said: doubt, confusion, distractions, temptations, weak faith, etc. Just anything that may happen that makes us veer off of the road that is leading us to God. And again, like it's so easy to fall into sin. It's so easy to choose the opposite of what is good because it's just so, it's like the first pick. I feel like
it's worldly, and I think because we're surrounded by so many worldly people and just influences exactly. Like I feel like it's just the easier choice. It's easier to just give in than to like say no and realize no, that's not bringing me closer to God. That's actually weakening my faith and pulling me farther away. And I think too, making the choice of like, I'm not going to indulge in this because this is doing the exact opposite of like what I want it to be doing. So just like knowing what it is, pointing it out and removing it. Just any deceiving thought that weakens our faith, I think would pretty much sum it up. So it's just whenever something is taking you farther from God and it feels evil and wrong and bad. But listen to your gut. It's so true. Listening to your gut is so important. Never listen to my gut and it gets me in a lot of trouble. Really? Like I could know something is like so wrong or like I just shouldn't do this or I shouldn't say this, but it's just I'm so quick and I need to work on just like praying like, please God, help me slow down and like please give me the things to say and give me just clearer, more sophisticated choices, I guess, not as crazy. Or just allowing you a moment to think a little bit before just jumping on things. No, I feel impulsive, like that's the word. Oh, there you go. That's that's hard because I am too. But the blind leading the blind over here. Right. I promise we're stay here. Like, don't look at our men's credit card statements. Just kidding. No, but I don't know. I do think that it's really important to like overcome it by first just recognizing it. And I think that knowing that's not God, that is literally Satan attacking me, I think that is also like the first step to going farther away from it and like going closer to Jesus. So I agree. The power of prayer.
I have been really trying to be more intentional personally with praying and asking God for specific things. Like, I need help here, I need help here, and not feeling ashamed like, oh, I'm asking so many things. Like, no, he wants us to do that. If it's going to, at the end of the day, help me glorify him better, of course he's going to listen to me. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. And he asks us to put our fear and our anxiety onto him. And I think that's exactly what he wants. He doesn't want us to turn to those temptations and give in. He wants us to realize, no, I shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to run straight towards Jesus. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to ask for God to save me from this, or ask for clarity or knowledge or freedom or peace. I think he can give all of those things if we just choose to put our feet towards him.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about who you surround yourself with and the community that you indulge in, and just the people around you. Are they partaking in sin? Are they making you a strong disciple of Jesus, or are they making you weaker in your faith? Because that's easy to fall into too. Oh, and I know 100%. This is so cliche, but I heard it 3 times last week, which it has to mean something if you hear it that many times, but it's garbage in, garbage out. And I was that is so true. Like, obviously we always hear you are who you hang out with, whatever, but no, just having a community that will pull you away from the temptations of this world there's just so much power behind that, and it's just so important to do that. And
it's important to realize that that person does not want the best for me, or that person doesn't respect my what I desire in a relationship, or what I desire with my faith. And I think it's important to go to people that you can count on to pray for you, or people that will just be alongside you in a beneficial way and not bring you towards those temptations of drugs, sex, anything. Like
gossip.
Yeah, gossip. That's a hard one.
That's a really hard one.
But I just feel like being closer to people that are going to put you in the direction that you want to be in is so important to getting away from those doubts, confusion, fear, any of that. And I just think it's also so important to get into the Word. Like, reading your Bible, it changes you. It allows you to hear what God sounds like and know what God sounds like. And I think that if you're going to church and stuff, but you're not reading the Bible, which I have been there. I literally did not start reading the Bible for till last year, I think. But when I actually started reading my Bible, I was able to actually discern what is God speaking to me, or what is my flesh speaking to me, or what is Satan, for example. Like, what is the difference there? And I think what helped me the most was reading my Bible and hearing what God's voice actually sounds like. Yeah. And knowing what his phrases are going to be like. Like, God's not going to be in your head like, yeah, it's fine. Go to that party. Like, no. Yeah. No. Like, God's going to tell you, like, no, child, stay home and read the Bible. Like, get in my word, or whatever. So I think just being able to discern what is so important. And
like you said, I think, sorry to cut
No, you're fine. You're good.
Going to church but not reading your Bible, I feel like that's kind of like brushing your teeth without toothpaste.
That's
you're
so
literally just brushing your teeth with water. Sink water.
Valid.
Phoenix City sink water and no toothpaste.
Yeah, that's so good. That's such a good metaphor or whatever.
It came into my brain just now. Thank you.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you for working today.
No, but I agree. I feel like I felt very lukewarm until I actually started, joining a Bible study or finding a community that is helping me put Jesus first, and also getting in my word.
Yeah. And I think something too that the community that you build helps you do is understand God's word, because when you are just starting, it's so hard. And honestly, if you jump into the wrong book right away, or you just read something that's confusing to you, that's a huge, I'm closing this. I don't want to read this. Which the Bible can be really hard to understand, but it can also be the complete opposite if you read it as we do in our Bible study. We just finished Genesis, and I've never read Genesis all the way through. It's always been my goal to, but towards the end of Genesis, I was so intrigued. I was
Me too.
eating it up.
I was like, this is tea. This is good.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, no,
and just being able to understand it and like really put it all together and it to become like a complete story in my head, I think is just so powerful than just like the skimming that I used to do and not really retaining anything.
No, exactly. I agree. I actually want to kind of touch on that. When I very literally, what is it, Genesis 2 or 1, like I got scared. I, again, haven't read anything in the Bible all the way through, nothing. Like, I would read the verses that the church would share at the service, or I would read like a random verse here and there, but I never actually read any, book in the Bible front to back. And I had this moment. I was reading about the serpent and how Eve bit the apple, Adam bit the apple, whatever. And I had these weird thoughts in my head that like I could tell. I was like scared because I was like, this is not my thoughts. But I was basically like, a snake? Like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, but why is it making sense? It used to make sense. Like, I had almost forgotten everything, which I've read the beginning of Genesis before, so I knew what it was. But when I read it this time, I was getting these random thoughts that I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And I immediately texted Jamie and I was like, help. Like, I'm starting to feel doubts. I'm starting to be like, this doesn't make sense. Like, help me. But then I decided, you know what? Stop right there. Stop freaking out. I'm going to go and read different versions of the Bible. Mind you, I had a Bible that I really didn't understand that well at the time. I got a new one because of this situation, but I read different versions on my Bible app, and that helped a lot because one version, instead of serpent, it says like in parentheses, or it just says Satan. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Satan, trying to tempt Adam and Eve. That makes so much more sense than in my brain. I had these weird thoughts like a snake telling these people like eat
Jungle Book.
It felt very
snake from Jungle Book.
Exactly. And I was like, this is weird, but I've never thought that before.
That's not realistic.
And I was like, that's not realistic. That doesn't make sense. So, but then in my head, I also recognized that those were not the thoughts I've ever had. Like, I've never had it was so weird. Like, I wish I could explain it better, but it just felt very like those were doubts that I would never have. Like, me as a person, I would never have those doubts, but I did. So I recognized that was Satan, or that was my spiritual warfare in that moment of like doubts, confusion, scare, like fear. Like, I was scared, but then, I reached out to the community that I had, which was Jamie, and I was like, help me understand this, because I don't want to have doubts. I don't want to have these fears or anything. And then I also was able to do research and realize that that's not true. That like, this is what it was saying. That's why it makes sense, not the other way around. And I think that's why recognizing when you have spiritual warfare, like, that's not God. And so I feel like that's so important to be like your first step of getting over it is actually being able to recognize it. So I was low-key proud of myself for that.
Exactly. I was gonna say, like, 10 years ago, if I would have been in that situation, I probably would have closed my Bible and put it on my shelf and been like, well, that's enough for me. This is all make-believe.
Yeah, literally, I was like, that's like,
probably
that's silly.
What a lot of people struggle with. Like, that's
well, I mean, it's the first book in the Bible. It's the first thing you open. You think you're gonna read it that way because if you don't know it that well, you don't know that you don't necessarily have to read it cover to cover, like, you can read different books at different times. But I think if 10 years ago you were like, if you read it just booked cover to cover,
like, okay,
you're like, okay, this is silly, bye. No, and I think I was just very glad that I was able to like fight off that. I was able to snap out of it. And then I immediately was like, this all makes sense, like, all is good in the world. Like, I was like, okay, now I feel back to myself.
And then it went into the most beautiful story. Well, no, sorry. The most beautiful story became prior to that, about how, like, a woman was made from man's rib. So when you get past, like, the doubts of the scripture, you can see how beautiful the story really is. And how beautiful God's creation really is. And what pulled you out of that, as you said, was your community and just your desire to learn.
And I think also me just continuing to read instead of stopping and closing you know.
Well, the weirdest thing just happened. You guys will notice a weird cut in our podcast. But
yeah, the computer that is connected to our mics just turned off, but it's on. So I don't know. I hope you guys can hear us fine.
Yeah, hopefully this is working.
If that doesn't tell you, just that's like probably the 50th thing that's happened.
That's the
I swear.
Cherry on top. That is my spiritual warfare.
Like, I rebuke, get out. Like, I can't. But I hope that we get back into this smoothly.
Yeah.
But I think I was just saying that it was super important and beneficial to me that oh my gosh, sorry, I cannot speak. It was super beneficial that I just kept reading instead of stopping right then and there and being scared and not wanting to learn more.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think that and for that to happen like right before this episode was also like just coincident, like funny. Like,
yeah, it was almost like,
Yeah.
It's like I experienced it, so I could share that I relate to this or I understand this if other people are going through it. So
yeah, I think that a common one for me is I'm too busy. Like we were kind of saying, I think just claiming yourself as too busy is a little bit of spiritual warfare as well. I'm too busy to join a Bible study. I'm too busy to read my portion of the Bible tonight that, is part of my plan or whatever. Nobody cares enough about my story, so I'm not going to speak up in certain situations when really what you have to say might be really powerful for someone else to hear.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the whole being busy thing, I think, could be something that you kind of look deeper at and be like, is it that I'm busy? Or am I just not choosing to plan the time out?
Yeah.
Am I actually just afraid to join a Bible study of people I don't know? Yeah. Am I afraid to show up to church on Sundays alone?
Selfish with my time, or
am I I need to watch my show at night though instead of reading your Bible, or I just need 5 more minutes of sleep in the morning. I'd rather do that than
read
Bible
the verse
study.
Of the day.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe it's not necessarily spiritual warfare and it's like Satan attacking you, but it is the worldly desires and temptations that are. And I think that almost coincides with Satan in a way, because that's anything that is not good. Yeah. And that's anything that is not God. And it's something that isn't putting you feet first towards Jesus. So I think that's why it's something that's just not gonna benefit you in the way of becoming a better Christ follower. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that I can only really think of that one specific story of my spiritual warfare of like the serpent thing. But I also feel like sometimes I get into these deep, like, it's almost like when I am busy, you have that like depression room when you don't clean your room and it's a mess, like that kind of thing. Or like I don't take care of myself as well when I am busy, and I think that's not glorifying God. I think I have to do better at feeding myself, or like I am so bad at this sounds horrible, but I'm so bad at eating. Like I literally have to plan it in my day, otherwise I don't, just because I simply forget. Like I prioritize things ahead of that, and I shouldn't, because that's not glorifying God. Like I want to sit down and pray, eat, spend that time like glorifying God rather than let me scroll or
scrolling and
watching TV or watching The Bachelor or something. Like I definitely just want to do better at simply taking care of myself rather than letting the worldly things that aren't benefiting me like take more of my time, because it literally doesn't help me at all.
Yeah, well, and I also think not only is it not helping you, but I think that a lot of times it's causing you to have worse depression, worse anxiety. I think that a lot of worldly things that we participate in are huge causers of our stress, and just think if we were able to eliminate some things, we would be helping ourselves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If I was not keeping up with social media and not worrying about what my friends are doing without me there, then I wouldn't have that like FOMO, that anxiety of missing out, which having anxiety and having FOMO is not glorifying God. That's a selfish desire.
Yeah.
And it's just Yeah, but it's just so easy. Like I said, like it's just day to day. It's just easy things to fall into.
Yeah, and I just feel like no matter how hard you like try to stop it, if you don't actually have like your heart turned towards Jesus and like open to just actually stopping what you want to do, it's never going to end. And I think being able to just know that, oh, this is where my weaknesses are. This is where my weaknesses lie, and that's what I need to like protect. And I think knowing that your like my weakness is probably watching like Netflix reality TV shows that just waste my time.
And the like, worst shows too, like Love Island.
I know. And it's like, you know, that's actually so bad of me to watch. But it's so entertaining.
That's
like
I really, really struggle with is like watching secular shows and listening to secular music. It's just so darn easy to be of this world.
It is. And I think
Satan makes it so easy.
Exactly. And I think that's where he'll attack you, is knowing like, oh, that's your weakness. You're so intrigued by this. Like, and I think that God knows that he knows our heart and he knows where our heart posture lies. And I think if we're doing things that are like, if we're watching shows and we don't have a like good mindset towards it, I feel like that's when it's a problem. But I also feel like it can still be a problem no matter what, because you're just allowing that to be put in your life, if that makes any sense.
I think, well, one, you're filling your time with something that is not glorifying God. Like, instead of watching Love Island, I could be doing this. But also, are you watching Love Island out of pure entertainment, or are you watching it and are you jealous of them? Are you wishing that you could live like that for a fun summer?
Or like finding yourself lustful over them, or
comparing your body to their bodies. It's just so many little things that you don't think of until you sit down and think about them intentionally.
Exactly. And along with when you brought up like music, it's just so easy, because I feel like I've said this many times, I feel like our words speak over our life. I think there's like a verse in the Bible that says something of like our words speaking over our life, and how that can totally like change your entire like thought process of who you are and what happens in your life. And I think when you're singing songs about drugs, sex, like parties, like I feel like that totally can just change how you are as a person. I think
garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. And so I don't know, I think it's really important to just stay mindful of what you are allowing yourself to be surrounded by, including people, music, media, like
at the end of the day, these are all little attacks by Satan to pull us away from God. And if that's the complete opposite of what we want, why are we allowing that to happen? So no, this is so good. I had the chills like 14 times while you were talking.
Same. I'm sweating, good. But we'll pretend I have chills. I'm
okay. So one of my favorite, Proverbs, as I mentioned in our last podcast with Haley, is I just love Proverbs. Proverbs 12:25, when overcome by anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it great. And I think, the devil just uses anxiety to disrupt our hearts and affect our Christian walk. Kind of just what we were talking about, anxiety, depression, all of that robs our peace. And it's just the enemy's strategy to win the battle against us.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what he does every time, is he wins when we fall into the anxiety, into the depression. And I would never say anything's wrong with being anxious or having depression. Like, some people really actually struggle with those things, and I would never discredit like, oh, that's not real. Like, you don't have real anxiety. You're just, there's things you can do to not have it. I would never say that, but I do think that, if you're conscious about your lifestyle and about things that are making you anxious, that can really benefit your anxiety path.
Exactly. I literally had like the worst anxiety for the longest time that I like slightly opened up about, but I'll kind of open up deeper, is that I would get so anxious over just all of these worries of what could happen or what might happen, and that would literally make me physically sick to where I would be up all night and all the next day throwing up nonstop, and I couldn't keep anything, not even water, down. And that was just such a hard time in my life. This was like my first year of college, and I wasn't able to handle it. I got to a point that I was just so like over it, because I felt so physically sick like multiple times a month, and I like didn't know what to do. I had to call out of work. I wouldn't be able to go to school that day. Like I would have to it stopped my life. And I also feel like I never knew anyone that also kind of struggled with it. Like I know people that struggle with anxiety, but not to the point where they're physically throwing up nonstop for a day. And I kind of I realized that it didn't stop or like lessen or anything until I started going to Bible study and putting more of my energy into reading the Bible, talking about God, talking to God. And, at the time I was like, I'd be physically sick, like praying, like, please, like, help me not feel sick. Like, I feel horrible. But then when I actually changed everything about my life to be in, glorifying God, that's when my anxiety is gone. Like I have the normal anxiety, like randomly anxious days, but I don't know the last time I threw up because I was anxious. Yeah. Which I used to not be able to say that. Like I felt like I was like, I don't know, I was stuck. Like I couldn't do anything to fix it. I like went to doctors. I did all of that. They couldn't help me. And the only thing that helped me was getting closer to God and actually putting the rest of my life towards God instead of like into worldly things of like, oh, let me go to the doctor instead. I'll help that. Which sometimes, like some people I know have to do that, and that's okay. It didn't work for me. Yeah. But I will say that genuinely putting everything up to God has actually helped me. Yeah. So.
Well, and also too, just again, like piggybacking off of that, is just not claiming yourself as an anxious person. Like, oh, I'm just anxious. That's me. Like, I just have anxiety. Yeah. Like, again, as you said, there's a lot of power in the things you say. Like, don't claim that you're anxious. Exactly. It's okay to say, like, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety. But I think when you start to live in that mindset of, oh, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that, it's like, okay, are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling upset right now? Or are you feeling worried? Or are you self-diagnosing in a way? If that makes sense. What can we do to get you out of that? Which obviously getting into the word helped you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so thankful. But I agree. I feel like if you are constantly saying like, I am anxious, I am depressed, I am nervous.
Making that your identity rather than I am a God-loving woman who's feeling a little bit of anxiety today.
Yeah. And maybe you have a lot of anxiety, but at the end of the day, knowing like, you know what, I'm going to turn it to God instead. I'm not going to claim that as who I am as a person. Like I am a person who can fight anxiety. I am a person who can fight off nervousness and confusion and doubts and all of depression. These little attacks. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's just mental health has been such a huge problem in our world right now that there seems to be no solve for it except for medication. And
well, that works for some people.
Which exactly, it works for some people, but some people are also still like fighting these battles. And I think something that like me as a Christian woman, the only thing that helped me was turning closer to God, and he set me free. And so I owe that all to him, but I know that, that's only because I stopped having the mindset of like, oh, my anxiety again, like it's one of those days, nope, gotta call out of everything and call out of life. Like, no, I had to just work through it and really understand maybe that I had to understand that God can take anxiety away from me. It doesn't have to be medication, because I'm just like personally, and this is just my personal opinion, I didn't want to have to take medication for it because it didn't work for like members of my family. And So I just didn't want to have to go that route if I didn't have to. Like, that probably would have been my last resort.
Yeah.
But I did like Christian therapy and just reading the word, going to Bible study weekly. Like, literally every day was getting in my Bible, and that nothing has helped like that. So I just want more people to know that that's a possibility, as long as like you are so dedicated to it, because it was so hard. At first I was still like getting sick all the time, but like,
right. And I think too, it's important to not just go to God when you're feeling anxious. Like, don't just go to God when you want something from him. I think that's also a huge turn away of like, well, God's not listening to my prayers. Like, why is God allowing this to happen in my life right now? It's like, are you consistently having a relationship with God? Are you consistently coming to him? Does he know the depths of your soul? Like, are you putting it all out there for him, or do you only go to him when you need something?
Exactly.
It's easy to do that.
Oh, 100%. It's so easy to just go and ask for things instead of just being thankful for where you are. I think it's so, like we were talking about earlier, the power of prayer. I feel like the way that I feel like my prayers get answered is just recognize, like, first, like, thanking him, being like, thank you for being here. Thank you for, you know, waking me up another day. Thank you for getting me here. Even if, you know, at the time I might be depressed or anxious, like, still thank you for letting me be here. Like, I'm thankful for this life. And then I'm like, Lord, give me the guidance and the, like, knowledge of how to get myself out of this. Help me, like, take my fear away and help me know what to do and how to fight this battle. And I don't want to fight it alone. So, and then again, I just thank him again, and I'm like, thank you, because again, like, if you don't take this from me, that's fine. And you have to like I have to totally be like, I am letting it go to you. I'm not gonna
surrender it.
Yeah, exactly. Surrendering it to God and just being like, you know what, I'm gonna let go and let you do it. You know, the whole like let go and let God. Like, it's so real.
We're like a walking Hobby Lobby store with our quotes today.
I know, like, they just keep coming. But
they're so good.
But it's so real, and like, that's probably why they're popular. So I don't know, I just feel like really surrendering is something that a lot of people struggle with when dealing with spiritual warfare. I feel like it's so hard to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna stop taking control and you can take control. I think that's probably the hardest part about it.
And I think too, like, just a huge step in overcoming this spiritual warfare. One more time if I say this wrong. Spiritual warfare battle is to just identify it and call it what it is, and know that it's going to happen every single day. Like, we're going to encounter attacks every single day of our life. So knowing what it is, and again, knowing that it's not from God, that's step one of just turning it all around, just rewriting the story.
And just change your mindset, change it into be like, how can I turn this into good? And let's make Satan angry. Let's make him upset, okay? Because that when we choose those temptations and doubts and confusions and all of those, when we fall into that makes God sad. That's how I think of it. I'm like, Jesus wouldn't want this. Like, that's how I like get myself through it. But I also just know that, you know, take it, Satan. Like, I'm gonna show you can't get to me. Like, so I don't know, I really enjoyed talking about this, and I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, and even I didn't like to talk about it until we were like, let's do it. So
Jamie did make a comment before we started recording that she was a little worried if this is gonna open up some more spiritual warfare, like talking about it. And I was like, well, maybe, but also we're so solid in our faith, and we're so strong in knowing who God is and knowing who we are as Christian women.
And I think,
I know. Let the
come at me. Like, I will fight harder. Like, God is way stronger than you, Satan, and you know that. So, I don't know. I think, like you said, just, I almost feel the closer you go to God, the more powerful you are, and the more, you know, the more of an army you have behind you. And you
just feel like calm and at ease, and like, I can handle this, and nothing is too big for me and my God.
Exactly.
This was fun.
I know. I hope you guys had fun.
Thank you for being vulnerable, and
thank you for being vulnerable. And let us know. I kind of want to open up, like, if you ever need any prayers or any prayer requests, just you can DM us on Instagram or anything. But Thank you for listening.
We love you,
We
and
love
we'll
you.
see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.